So today I am reviewing chapters 8 13 for our class. Um, this week's discussion, was a deeper appreciation for a spectrum of coaching styles, like the guided discovery, player initiated coaching. Like those two gave me challenges to think critically about how athlete learning and autonomy are developed differently depending on coaching approach. Obviously I've experienced these styles firsthand as an athlete because I saw several explanations about baseball with the guided discovery style that I enjoyed and definitely took notice to. But it was the first time I kind of really analyzed the why behind certain strategies and how they shape performances because when you're playing you don't really think about I guess a lot of stuff specifically in basketball, football, baseball. We think a little bit more, but it's not specifically the styles of coaching. We just think, hey, okay, he just obviously this is a crazy coach, or this is a smart coach, or this is a serious coach. It's the analyzation behind these strategies shapes our performance, but kind of makes us think a little more, and it's kind of I feel like it could make me a better athlete. Other people. It just depends. So. Well, first, obviously, start off with the guide to discovery. That was style F. That was a structured form of coaching. It's categorized by logical sequential design of questions that leads players to a coach's predetermined response. It's designs the question sequence. With players discover the answer, a concept, idea, principle, play, or tactic or strategy. It guides the athlete to a single predetermined answer. So the quote that stood out to me the most was the coach never tells us the answer because the goal is to keep the athlete in cognitive dissonance until they make discovery themselves. It makes you reflect on how a method builds problem solving skills and deeper understanding. I like the baseball example where the batter struggles with inside fastballs, and the question's hey, can you move the pitcher? Which direction would you put you further away? It discovers the solution on their own. As a player, I've had moments where the coach could have told me an answer, but instead led me there with questions. And it obviously sticks with you longer than being told because, when you're younger, kid, T-ball, maybe little league or 13, 14, you need an answer because you don't know everything. But I feel the more you get older, say, hey, coach, I struggle with outside pitches, what should I do? Well, can you move the pitcher? No. What should you stand to make it easier? Or should you work on this? It makes you think more. The guided discovery is not just about random questioning. Obviously, it's about designing a learning experience that requires athletes to think. It definitely encourages engagement and ownership, which I agree with completely. But I didn't, however, understand how much patience and preparation it takes from the coach, because I guess the coaches that I've dealt with, now looking back at it, because it's not easy for them to see the athlete struggle, but obviously the long term benefits of discomfort is good because as a player myself, you're thinking man, why you keep asking me all these questions, coach? I don't know the answer. Tell me, what am I doing wrong? Says helping me think for myself. So when he's telling all these things, I'm obviously you get an attitude. You think coach is an a-hole, excuse my French, but you obviously think bad of the coach because why is he not helping me? Until you start to think when you get older, and obviously maturity comes with wisdom and all that. The more older you get, but the patience he's having with us is hey, think about it. Why is this happening? Especially specifically when you talk about throwing and with injuries me myself, I tore my labrum 18 months ago, so dealing with that, we have a coach is saying hey, coach, when I throw this, all the balls always are going that way, but it makes me pull my shoulder. Why? It's well, why do you think? Just walk through it. And it's it kind of gets frustrating at first, but then it kind of makes you think okay, I'm uncomfortable right now, doing this, but the more and more I do it, it helps not just with pain, just mentality and just success in the field or whatever you're doing. The other style was convergent discovery. There were shift responsibilities to an athlete to create their own questions in order to solve a single known problem. And I kind of compare it to the guided discovery because, coaches asking you questions like to help. But I feel like cognitive convergent discovery, like it kind of combines itself because he asked me a question. Okay, now I'm asking myself a question like what's going on? Like how do I solve this? A quote that resonated with me was like, convergent thinking is the ability to find the ideal solution to a clearly defined problem. I found it effective in team strategy scenarios. Like if in baseball, like the catcher is giving like a scouting report on like a hitter that has quick hands, and like a little bit of power, but it's very quick, and he determines the pitch and defense to use it. So like it reinforces like ownership and situational analysis, and definitely like kind of differs a little bit from the guy's discovery. So like like when the quote he was saying like ability to think, the ability to find the ideal solution to a defined problem. So like it's obviously specifically for just team strategy, so not just baseball. Football, like when you're trying to score, like you need a solution to like a late game score. So now you got convergent thinking to question what's everything going on. What I didn't understand, I guess, like why it differed before, like why it differed from Guide Discovery, because it seemed similar when I was reading through it. I was like, okay, like just asking, both of us asking questions to coaches, and now I am. But like I guess here the athlete knows like the target solution. You just have to find like the path. And it's more cognitively demanding, I would say, and I see they definitely can see how like it strengthens an athlete's persistence and problem solving, but I can also see how it might frustrate like younger, less experienced less experienced athletes, because if like it's not if we don't think we can do it alone or figure it out by ourselves, like I could definitely see like how as a player, like me personally, it would frustrate me and kind of make me think like, man, I can't do this. Like, why is it why is it doing me? Like, it definitely, if not scaffolded correctly, like it definitely can affect the athlete's frustration. The other style H, was divergent, divergent discovery. Definitely one of the most enlightening parts, I say, for the reading. It definitely encourages creativity, multiple solutions, which is my favorite thing when it comes to like coaching and playing, because creativity definitely brings a new discovery, like to like you as a person, and challenges of what you can do as a coach or a player. Text said, unlike convergent discovery, this style seeks multiple possible answers to a problem, which is honestly some of the best thing when you're playing, because practice, like you rarely see this used because in a high structural sports environment, but you understand it like its value in early developmental stages. So like there was a baseball scenario where players are like asked to brainstorm different ways to move a runner from first base. If you allow multiple answers, like it fosters like tactical creativity, and especially in baseball, this is needed because like you have bases loaded, you want to score one out, like you might think like squeeze is the best option. You don't have an all-around player out. Squeeze is the best option, which is, I'm not saying you don't know, but just to clarify, squeeze is when the guy on third base runs and you turn around and bunt no matter what the pitch is, so that he scores no matter what and can't throw him out. Or you might think a sac fly is the best option. Think go to someone that can try to hit a home run, or someone that could split the gap, someone that can challenge the defense to make a mistake, be fast. So like like you could be a bunt, a hit and run, an opposite field hit. Like it definitely fosters a very big creativity, and that's probably my favorite one, divergent discovery, because like you may see it in like inefficient, but like you definitely understand like it enhances game intelligence. And baseball is very played from the neck up. Like basketball, it's like nothing against it, but it's running and shooting and like the typical stuff, like dunk, jumping. Like okay, like you just need to train to get better at that. Football, like running people over. Like quarterback is different, but running people over, kicking them as hard as you can. So like like for baseball, it prepares athletes for unpredictable situations. Like because like you might when you're like, for an example, when I'm playing third, like I remember making a play where it's very headsy, because there was a guy rounding third on a slow hit, and he's expecting me to throw it as hard as I can to get the buy out. But if you fake a throw and the guy's rounding hard to try to catch you so he can get home quick, you got a guy right there, so you get the lead runner, and then especially when you're losing a game or like it's close, like you want to get that guy out so that like if a man is on first and it hits up the middle, he's at third or he's at second. Man's on third or second, he's probably scoring. So it definitely makes you think a lot. Player design and player-initiated coaching. Those were the final styles represented at the highest levels of athlete autonomy. The design coaching was the coach chooses topic, but the athlete creates the questions or the tasks or reflections. A quote that I said that stood out to me was, this style marks a significant shift toward athlete independence, which is great. Being an athlete, you don't want to be comparing yourself to someone or trying to think that you're like this person. Everybody's obviously different. Everyone's autonomy is different. There was a tennis player creating their own drill progressions to handle long rallies against like counter punchers really hit home for me, because you can't, just because Serena Williams or Rafael Nadal or Djokovic, I always forget his first name. I think it's Nikola Djokovic, but no, Nikovac Djokovic. But just because these people do something different doesn't mean you have to. You can copy them and do the same thing. We're all different. But in contrast, player-initiated coaching was when the athlete becomes to the coach with the desire to lead their, learning entirely. Sorry, I don't know why that ended, but like I was saying, like with the tennis coach, the player-initiated coach, the coach's desire to lead their learning entirely. The coach simply provides resources. It's a big shift from traditional coaching models, and requires high level maturity from the athlete, which I think is very understood. As the athlete gets older and better, I think these methods are definitely powerful, but I also think they require a culture shift. An athlete needs to be taught how to reflect and self-assess, and coaches need to be comfortable stepping back and not being those helicoptering people that always surrounding. And that's why I think sometimes parents don't make the best coaches, because personally, I know I performed the best where I felt trusted to solve problems on my own. And I see how I can transform confidence, because if you feel like a coach or trainer or someone is not trusting you to solve a problem on your own, it's they think that you never can just do anything. It just feels kind of demeaning, and just it kind of sways your, not just opinion of yourself, but it kind of makes you think okay, I'm gonna try to make this adjustment. Okay, and then you got someone complaining, telling you this, and that. You're not doing this right, they're not doing this right. You don't do anything right on your own, and it kind of fly. It kind of definitely brings your confidence down, because it makes you think that you won't be on your own or won't be able to have a chance. Good Lord. You won't have a chance to actually try to do stuff on your own. So I definitely think having your own personal reflection and having a coach that steps back is definitely huge. Definitely one of the biggest takeaways from these chapters is that effective coaching is not just about sticking to one style, but knowing how to apply different styles based on athletes' readiness and obviously the context of depending on what's going on or sport. Progression from guided discovery to player-initiated coaching reflects as an increase in transfer responsibility. I remember the line from the presentation summarized it well. The most effective coaches understand that no single style is superior. So the coaches that think that, you always have a player that can adapt, adjust well to a coaching scenario, but those coaches who can't adapt are usually the worst coaches, because they think that their style is superior, so they teach the same thing. But, players get better, older, stronger than people were when they were a kid or their kids or blah, blah, blah. There's new tech, there's obviously new things, people coming out, there's new medicine, you need to adapt. So, with a new player, for example, I might use, guided discovery to introduce a tactical concept, but with a veteran, or an older kid, or kid is obviously more advanced, all the players, I might use player design coaching, to have them evaluate game film and create their own improvement plan. Like it's a flexible framework, and aligns well like with my coaching philosophy when I did coach. It centers around development, autonomy, and empowerment. Specifically because, like when you talk to a kid, like guided discovery, it allows them to ask their own questions because, like, I know when I'm training, like I want the kid to know for himself. I don't want to keep saying, no, this is wrong, this is wrong. I want him to tell me, and it allows him, like, you make it fun, you make it like engaging. A veteran, like, he already knows, so you gotta like evaluate, create an environment that like he can improve on his own. I guess before this week I had a basic understanding, the styles. I couldn't articulate how they differed or when to use them. Now I'm understanding that, coaching is both not just an art, it's a science, and I didn't know like how mental it went into it, and I thought it was just like, oh, like gotta be a hard coach, tough coach, like I didn't know, like it was just about knowing the athlete, understanding the demands of sport, and choosing the right tool at the right time. I definitely agree strongly with the idea that coaches are facilitators in learning, not just instructors. But this reading also reinforced my belief, that coaching should be athlete-centered. And I now want to be more intentional, about my integrating questions because I know I sometimes slack in that department. But I want reflection to be a big part. I don't want to single a kid out like in front of a group. I just want to reflect, self-assess into like sessions, just not to create better players, but more self-reliant, thoughtful athletes or men or women that I'm coaching.